Welcome to the Deer Society podcast. Here's your host, Brian Lemke.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Deer Society podcast. I'm Brian Lemke, joined by JJ Ducart and Brian Clary. Season is quickly approaching here, and we are going to talk about trail camera strategy. So for us, our cell cameras, our reveals have been out in the woods for weeks now. We're gathering that intel from afar. Super important now, especially because we're getting towards the season, right? So you want to spend the least amount of time, with boots on the ground on your property, the least amount of pressure that you can right now. So for us, those cell cameras are huge, sending us that data without us needing to be out there. But we're going to be talking about, trail camera setup, placement, settings, time of year, a lot of different things on just trail cameras in general. So let's kick it off. So let's start with kind of time of year. So, we're in late summer, approaching fall, season's kicking in. Where are your cameras set up right now, and why are they set up there?
Well, most of my cameras are on food and water. I leave them on those. We do water tanks on some of the properties we hunt, and I leave the cameras up there almost year-round because water seems to be a year-round attraction. Even in the winter, they're coming to those spots trying to break through the ice or try to get a drink. So our water holes always have a camera on, or most of the time do. And then the preferred food source in the area. So, deer are still hitting soybeans pretty hard. Our food plots are coming into their peak attraction right now. Nebraska food plots. And even the clover food plots are still plenty of attraction there too. So just food sources, water sources are top two. And then I guess as we come up here these next couple weeks or months, mock scrapes or primary scrapes seem to get a lot of attention. So shifting them around here in a couple weeks. That's my general.
Another thing that I always look for over the food plots, oak trees this time of year. Acorns are dropping. You mix that with a food plot, you've got a recipe for every deer visiting that specific area of that food plot almost every time they come through.
Yeah, I think that, that's a common consensus there. Summer, you're looking for field edges, food sources. So like soybeans right now are great for getting pictures of deer. Try to look for those pinch points, and try to really, when you're putting out your cameras, try to maximize your camera placement. So, that's something that we can dig into, but there's a lot of options if you're going to put your camera, it's different when you're talking about in the timber, on a trail, obviously you're going to pick a high traffic trail, put it down there. When you look at a food plot or an ag field, right, that's not a cornfield, so soybeans, there's a lot of different places that you can put your cameras and, you may get deer or you may be missing deer. So, I try to look for spots where, the field might pinch down a little bit, that creates a traffic area for the deer. I'll try to pick an area where, you can maybe see in the background a little bit. So if a deer does walk in front of you, you can see the rest of the plot as well. Just take some time when you're setting your trail cameras or your cell cameras and, think about, how those deer are using that area so you can maximize the pictures that you get. Because, especially this time of year, you can be just a little bit off and not get that data that you're actually looking for. So, for me, it's cornfield edges right now. It's in the beans, finding those pinch points on food plots. But, one of the other things that I'm doing, and I don't know how much of it you guys do, I'm getting into those areas or have already done so that I know I don't want to go in Correct. October, November, and starting to set a few of those cameras up in those kind of pre-rut locations where I know that they have primary scrapes or travel points that those cameras, I may not get a lot of pictures on them right now, understanding that, look, I'm setting these here for later. I know that they're going to last and they'll be in place for when that right time comes around.
Yeah, and the one thing I was going to touch on with that is having, I know Reveal has a really good option with it, but having solar So those spots that you're not touching for 2-3 months on end, you don't have to worry about battery at all because you're gaining that energy every day, replenishing it.
Yeah, and just thinking about, get as many things as possible in front of your camera as far as the traction goes. So there's some spots where maybe there is water right in front of the camera. If you can place it to where you can get a food source, or maybe even get a couple different like scrapes on the backside of the plot where you can see deer hit. Just as much movement to try to trigger that camera as possible, as many areas of attraction. If you're in a state where you can run some bait or mineral, and just add as many things as possible in front of that camera. Scent, if you can do that too. We can't do a lot of that in Minnesota.
No.
But yeah, just try to create as many attraction points as possible. Or if it's just a natural area, like different scrapes, food source, water, like the more the better. And another cool thing about if you're running a cell camera like Reveal, the framing is a big deal on what gets triggered. The trigger line's typically through the center of your camera. So whether it's like the X Pro where you can actually set your camera up and see the visual looking back at you to see where all those sensor points are hitting, or just you receive that, text message of your picture, and you can kind of adjust it to the frame to get as much trigger as possible. It just, correlates to more deer on camera and hopefully more big bucks on camera. But that's a big thing compared to what we used to do with non-cell cams, where you'd kind of just guess and kind of stand off to the side, is that level? And then you kind of square it up from the front, and, you come back 30 days, 45 days later, and the camera was a little bit higher, a little bit low, so it, a little bit off there. But yeah, so that's a huge thing with the cell cameras now, is you can like frame it perfectly to try to get all that in frame if possible. And then you got to think about, there's the tree you're trying to set your camera on if you're going with a strap system or an adapter, but there's also the stakes that many companies make, but Reveal has their own too, where you can put it in the ground wherever you want to try to get that perfect angle too. So yeah, just a couple tips to try to get more pictures. Framing is big, and then also it just looks cool when you got it all framed right. So if you got the water hole and the sunrise, it's like kind of an art form too.
Yeah, absolutely. Like utilizing that feature is huge, and like even the X Gen 2s, like you can hook your phone or through the camera generated Wi-Fi when you're standing there, look at it right on your phone, so you can walk out there and make sure your body's in the center of the frame and like where a deer would walk by. The other thing in talking about that is pay attention to the direction that your camera is facing. So like, you want to try not to point it right directly to where the sun's going to come up or where the sun's going to set, try to avoid false triggering. But one of the big things is try to angle your cameras a little bit. So like, if you're putting your camera on a trailer where deer are coming out, for instance, like don't put it exactly perpendicular to where they're coming out, right? So like try to think about how your camera's going to trigger. And so let's take a trail, for example, and you're looking down that trail. You kind of want to angle your camera at like a 45-degree angle down that trail. So like as the deer's coming, like he's going to trigger that camera and it's going to take a picture of him when hopefully he's in the center of that frame. If you put a perpendicular, that deer, say he's running down that trail, he's going to trigger that camera, and maybe by the time that camera takes a picture, he's going to be partially through that frame. So if you angle your camera down a trail or kind of cheat it towards where those deer are coming from a little bit, I think you have a better chance. You give your camera a better opportunity to take a better picture of a deer, kind of in the center of your camera. Yeah. And then to kind of build off what you said, JJ, on the stake side of it, man, I have used more stakes here recently than ever before. It just allows you to be so versatile. And when we're talking about maximizing your placement of your cell camera, like that allows you to put it where you want it. Like you don't have to have the perfect tree. So many times you're like, man, I want a camera here, but like not the perfect tree. Stakes allow you to put them anywhere. Like I just put one the other day, tucked in a cornfield. It was where corn meets beans, and it was a perfect spot. No trees around, but I could use that stake. And it was awesome. I know, JJ, you've actually used the stake in some pretty cool scenarios, like even on a water hole, right?
Yeah, and I just got into the stake thing last year, so I've always been the try to find a tree guy or pound a T-post in or try to do something make my own steak in a sense. But the cool thing about the steaks too is you got kind of you can swivel the camera a little bit if you get that adapter on top, so you can go up, down, left, right, all kinds of different angles. But yeah, another thing I was going to touch on. So yeah, I've done some crazy stuff where it's in the water hole. You got to wear rubber boots to get in there. That's kind of the Mr. Maybe tactic, I think, Colton.
Yep, he used to do that.
Yeah, used to have I think he just was using a T-post at the time, but yeah, had the camera in the water hole, so deer can't get up to it, can't smell it, things like that. So you were talking about trails and putting your camera on the trails and having that 45 kind of facing down the trail. Another element to that is, and I guess everybody's got different opinions. Sometimes deer don't care if there's a camera just wide out in the out in the open on a stake or on a tree, like the only tree just facing them. Other times maybe certain deer might be more sensitive to that. So then trying to get them up high in the air, kind of out of the deer sight. I've done that quite a bit, but then you're changing the angle. So you're changing that sensor angle. So now, if you're eye level or level with the deer pointing at that, at that trail, there's a lot more time to where the deer is going to cross the sensor and trigger your camera, to where if you're up high and you're pointing down to that same spot, like it's more precise on where the deer enters and how to get a picture. So got to kind of think about that too. It's not just about where the camera's pointing, but like the level of the camera and how that sensor, you can think of it like a laser beam, like a laser pointer. Like that's the level that sensor is running on. But if you get above the deer or if you're below the deer, I don't know why you'd ever be really below the deer, but it just changes that sensitivity and how the deer crosses that point. So just a couple of things to think about too. Setting up the camera.
Yeah.
Brian, any additional tips on camera setup?
Well, kind of to piggyback off what you were saying, having it pointed down the trail, especially now that we're getting into that time where we're switching a lot of the cameras over from picture to video, having that cheat space where you start getting it to pick up on the sensor down the trail, and by the time it's walking in front of your camera, you've got the full picture and you got it exactly where you want it. So that really helps when you're cheating it down a trail. The other thing is what you were saying with direction, avoiding those sun rays or I don't even know what those are called, that streak through your camera lens. But whenever possible, I try to point the camera north. I've always found that a good way to stay out of the harsh sunlight and good exposure on the pictures then as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think that, one other quick tip before I want to jump into camera settings in the video mode, but the other thing that I like to do, and it's especially crucial during the summertime, is like pay attention when you're setting up your camera to, other things around your camera that can trigger it. And I feel like it's inevitable. We all deal with it. You get these hot days, like, we've had a couple weeks here where it's been 90 or 100 degrees and you get that really high heat, and, you have weeds that are growing exponentially all the time. So, any kind of wind in that heat, like cameras are flashing and you're getting pictures and false pictures, and that happens. But you try to eliminate. I try to go in there, like I use a Hui Man machete everywhere I go, and to set up a camera, I have that with me, and I whack down the weeds around it. Now, there's a fine line there. Like I don't like to make my cameras stand out, big time to, another person or a hunter or a deer. But on the other hand, I want to make sure that my camera's just not flashing either. So, clean up some of that stuff around it if you can. While also being mindful to not have it stick out like a sore thumb either.
Yeah, I tend to like a bigger backdrop, like tree or brush pile or whatnot behind the camera to try to hide that visual. Also, a bigger tree has more support, so when it's windy and hot, like on those days where you get a bunch of pictures, that's typically because there's a skinny tree you're on and it's moving a little bit, and there's the weeds blowing out in front and everything's moving. There's just so much more motion. But if you can get on a big tree, clear everything out, face north, like not have the sun hit it right away, it definitely eliminates a lot of those false triggers. But I do like a backdrop on the camera, kind of like you're trying to pick your tree stand to go deer hunting. You're kind of looking at it like, is it silhouetted up there, or is it just wide open and you're going to stick out like a bump on a log? I kind of like a tree that's at least as big as the camera. But again, that's not always the option. And stakes, it seems like every deer is different, because sometimes you just stick a stake out in the food plot and put the camera on there, and
They don't care.
It doesn't bother
Yeah.
them. Other times, they're walking down a trail, it's front of their face, and they kind of look at it, and certain deer don't like that. So,
Yep.
hard to know.
Yeah, the other thing is when they're looking at it, make sure your sun control is on point when you're messing with your trail cameras and you're out in the woods doing whatever you need to do.
Yeah, that's a hard thing, especially like through those early summer months, but you really see how that scent control or lack thereof, plays a role in what you're doing all the time. Because like summer months, I can think of 10 pictures or videos I have right now of deer, over the last couple months coming up and, smelling those cameras, getting their nose right in there and trying to figure out, oh, this is something new. Like they're gonna see what it is. Like I feel like no matter how much you try to hide that camera, these deer are smart. You could use the cliche bedroom example. Like if somebody came in and put a trail camera or something in your bedroom, like you're going to notice it because you use it every day. These deer are smart and they can smell it, right? So, especially now getting right close to the season, you're going and putting out trail cameras, like phase up, use good scent control, try to be as cautious as you can and leave the least amount of scent on the camera and in that area around where you're setting your camera.
Yeah, I'm going to paint a picture of if I could hang an invisible camera, what it would maybe look like. So if you got a big buck and you're trying to get a camera in there and you don't want to bump him, we always talk about going in right before a storm or during a storm, trying to wash away as much scent as possible from the ground, from the camera. But if you could also get your camera out, whether it's already out there taking pictures now or you're going to deploy it soon, like if you can just set it outside for a few days, like it can't hurt. Or wash it down in a little bit of water, a little bit of phase, like try to clean that camera up, just get as much scent off as possible. And then I'm trying to think, like, I always think if you could get a little bit above eyesight, that's ideal. Obviously, you lose some sensor, you're going to lose a little bit of, you're probably going to lose some photos by getting it up high. And then the bracket, if you can get a bracket screwed into the tree and attach the camera up a little bit higher, and then you got the storm coming in, washing it all away. If it was kind of a clean camera to begin with, like that's a pretty good situation where maybe the deer is not going to find it right away. Like they might kind of look at it, or the wind shifts and the next day that camera's blowing at the trail, because you can't control the wind direction. So at some point, deer's going to be downwind to your camera, might smell it. But like that's an example of if you really need to get something in there, like if you can find that window in that situation, I could see that working pretty good.
Yeah, one other thing that I always do, pre-season ritual when I'm getting my fall cameras out, is washcloth and a phase field foam. Wash the exterior of it down completely, the battery compartment, everything. Let it sit out for like 2 days and then get ready for deployment.
Just to note, do not wash out the inside of the battery.
No.
with water.
But I mean, wherever you touch, I should say, on the camera, get all those oils and human odors off of it. Yeah, for sure.
I set them out on the deck a lot.
Yeah.
So real quick, before we jump into the next topic, let's do a giveaway. And, being in the time of year where we're putting out trail cameras potentially close to the season, we're going to give away a Phase 5-pack. Really control that scent as you're putting out your cameras. So if you want to get in on the giveaway, we're going to have you hashtag phase out, tag out. So somewhere on social media, hashtag phase out, tag out. We'll collect them all, put you in a drawing, and the winner will win a Phase 5-pack. I want to jump in a little bit and talk about video setting, or just camera settings, and video being one of those things. So we all run Reveal cell cameras here. One of the greatest things there's lots of great things, but one of the coolest things is the video setting on there. And then now the ability to request those HD videos right through the app. I think videos in cameras as a whole allow you to learn so much more about a situation versus just a photo. And then, being able to also access that real-time data, those videos to your phone, pretty sweet feature that we use a lot. All of my cameras are set up on pic plus video mode. I know your guys are too. Yep. What have you guys experienced with, just that video setting specifically?
You get so much more intel than just a picture. You get to see where the deer are coming from, a lot of times how long they're or how easily or slowly they might be passing through that area, how comfortable they feel in that specific area. I mean, the intel gets pretty much endless as far as what you can pick up on video compared to picture.
Yeah, I just think about a bunch of bucks that I've shot and
times a day that they're moving.
Breakdowns that we've done. Like, oh, this buck went back into this bedding area on this day. And then, like a photo shows you one thing, but a video shows you for sure what happened.
Yep.
Or they come and hit a scrape and then you see them. If you just got a photo, you just see the buck hit the scrape. If you got a video, then you see where they went after the scrape. Maybe they turned around and went back in. Mm-hmm. So pictures are great. Videos, substantially more beneficial.
Yes.
Also, kind of one thing that's interesting is a lot of times, so we do the Pick Plus videos. So you get a lot of photos, you request the videos, but even pulling the SD card, like down the road, if you're going to let it soak for 30 days, 45 days, there's a lot that can be learned from pulling all the videos later too. Mm-hmm. Like you might get a buck on camera that came in after the 15 seconds or after the 10 seconds or whatever. So pulling SD cards is beneficial too, even on cell cameras, because there's a lot more that you can gather when you're looking through all the raw data than just videos.
Yeah, no doubt. That you almost take it for granted, like you're getting all the information that you need, from what they're sending you on the phone, and you're getting a huge advantage there. But pulling the SD cards afterwards is pretty cool too. Like there's so much more even information that you can learn from those. That makes and it's cool to go back. Like I go back at the end of the year when I pull them and look at some of the stuff on there, and you look back at the bucks and get to even learn that much more. It's pretty cool, and then it's obviously great for what we do. Getting that highest quality image off the cards is great to have and store, so you can use that to look back at historical data to help you put a strategy in place for that current year. So
the other really nice thing though that they're doing is putting that info strip with all of the weather, the moon, the sun, sunrise, sunset. Like that info strip is huge on the new Reveal app. I love how they displayed that, so that's going to be really beneficial moving into this season.
For sure. Yeah, so kind of moving on with trail camera strategy, is there any other settings that you want to talk about when it comes to?
Well, when it comes to video, I want to ask you guys, how long do you keep your video running? I think I do mine on a little longer end. I usually do about 25, 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think it depends. And some cameras can run a little longer than others. Some cap you at 10 or 15 seconds. I've always found, around that 15 or 20 second mark is a good range there. That's a great question. I think you flirt with, again, you have to, look at, okay, how big is the card you're putting in your camera? If you're putting a 32 gigabyte card in there, is your camera on a trail? Is it on a food source? Is it on a feeder if that's legal in your state? How many pictures are you getting? How many videos are you getting? And how fast is that card going to fill up? Now, again, you can put your camera or a setting, like on the Reveals, SD loop. So, if your card fills up, it'll just loop over and, that's not an issue if you're never going to get stuff off your SD card. But for us, we want that content on there. So it's flirting with that line of how much is too much, how much is enough. And just for me personally, I've always liked that 15, 20 second range.
Yeah, it seems like you catch most of the action in that 15, 20 second range. I've never really done. I know a lot of cameras you can do up to 60 seconds, or even, really long on non-cells. I just didn't see a lot of benefit because of the size of the file. Then you're taking up space. So then it comes down to how big is your card, or do I got to go just grab the cards and replace them quicker, or batteries. Eats up battery life the longer you get. So yeah, I think 15 seconds is pretty prime. I like to run my Reveals on one picture plus video. I don't know what you guys do, but I feel like video is so much more important than photo. Yeah. That like one photo is fine, and then I want to grab the video right away. So instead of taking 1, 2, 3 pictures and then video, I like to get so it's about a 1 second like picture, 1 second, then video starts. Just because I think the benefit's so much more on video. So I try to get it as quick as possible, which is one pic plus video.
Yeah. Yeah, I run the same. I run mine one photo and then video. I want that high quality stuff. So I have mine set on the, the highest megapixel photo I can take. Running that full HD video, for me is huge. I know it's the same for you guys. So, that imagery is important. And that quality is kind of second to none. So, when it comes to cell cameras, like in the video part of it, I think it's so cool. It's beneficial to us as hunters, but there's so much more to it too. Like, man, I love getting those videos. It's kind of addicting, looking at it with your phone, and seeing what's coming in every day. But like with my wife and boys, like they love looking at it, to be able to show them, hey, this deer is out there, like, right now or yesterday or last night. That's super cool and super enjoyable. But I will tell you, and this goes back to the strategy part of it, especially this time of year, it's giving you that real-time data or lack thereof, maybe even just as important. Like,
So true.
If you have your cell cameras out there and you're not getting, a lot of action, like, I'm not afraid to go in now. Again, deer transitioning this time of year, so you have to be careful. But I am not afraid, like that first, little bit leading up to the season, or even that first part of the season. If I'm not getting pictures I think I should be getting, like, that's telling me that maybe I need to move my camera. Maybe it's just a little shift. Maybe it's a bigger shift and something that I have to pay attention to. But I think we all get excited when we all have action. But I think it's just as important, and those cell cameras allow you to analyze a situation when you have a lack of action, and maybe there's a move out there that you can potentially make.
Yeah, and I think, moving cameras around, there's kind of two ways I look at it. Maybe not everybody looks at it that way. It's either like do it really stealthy and invisible, or just straight up drive right to the camera and, pop it into the next spot. But it's mostly around food plots or food sources. So ag fields, apple trees, food plots, water, that type of thing. It's not so much like I'm going to go put it in this bedding area right now.
Right.
So we're not getting too crazy with the location. But yeah, I think it's either like you're not getting action, make yourself present, use a four-wheeler, tractor, truck, whatever, like make some noise doing it, or just completely, if you're trying to get in real tight to a spot, maybe just go full on stealth mode, rain, high wind, awesome scent control. Like, don't let them know you're there at all. I think it's like one of the two, maybe not a combination of both.
Well,
That's my thought.
And then another good thing, once the season started, you're visually seeing what deer are doing, and you see your camera over here, like you said, it could be just a fraction off and you're missing everything. And that's happened to me a time or two, where you move your trail camera 15 feet and goes from night to day as far as what you're gathering on a daily basis. And what are your trail cameras out there for? I mean, it's gathering data when you're not there. And when you got them around your stand sets and you're just that far off, huge advantage getting them on after you get eyes on what trails they might be utilizing at that time of the year.
Yeah, no doubt. So, as we progress through the season, how much do you guys move your trail cameras? Obviously we just talked about if you're not getting a lot of activity, move them. But like, as deer transition through the season, do you also transition your cameras throughout the season?
Some. It depends, I guess. If you've got history with a certain property and you know where deer are traveling at certain times of the year, then you got you're ahead of the ball. But if you are new to that property, you start on your ag fields, those dry up, where you move them next. Go to your high transition areas. I will move some of my cameras, but most of them I like to leave, throughout the year in the same exact spot, depending on what they're utilizing it for,
Yeah, I kind of got my favorite spots where, there's high traffic areas or water hole or, the end of a food plot with the primary scrape. But I will shift to more scrapes coming up. And then there's also that time where it's probably in about a month or so where there's the hard to get to spots where I'll put a camera up and want that thing to ride through the whole entire rut. So there are some spots where one we call it the gut, where it's like the camera's down in this very bottom of this whole timber system and there's bedding all around. So like when you go in there, you better, do what you got to do and get out on a good day. Like again, heavy rain, heavy wind, on a certain wind direction. Get down in there with a full card, like full battery. If you can get a solar panel on the camera, like get it set up for the next 60 days because you don't want to go in there during the whole entire rut. And then there's spots like over in Wisconsin where there's some acreage across the river. So at some point, again, pre-rut, getting a camera over there, full battery, full cards, like let it ride.
Are you going to swim across the river?
Depends on how high it is.
Wow.
It's a big river.
It is a big river. Not the Mississippi River, but it's a named, known river of unknown name. Canoe. It's definitely higher than knee-high boots. So it's either
Chest waders
or canoe, and let it ride. I'm going to do some experimental stuff over this year. I'm going to put up some cellulars and non-cellulars and just let them ride pretty much the whole season. See what happens, because I haven't done it for a few years and I don't really know how the deer use that area. So yeah, moving some cameras over there. Again, I can't really do it when there's no scrapes opened up and yet, and when there's just so much green, I can't really tell what's going on. So kind of wait for some sign to show before I set those cameras. But yeah, getting them on scrapes here coming up is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, if you're looking to capture, buck activity, scrapes are a great option for your cameras, especially throughout the pre-rut month or weeks and leading up to that, But even early, like you get your cameras on there. Deer communicate through scent, so they'll start using those scrapes. They'll start marking that territory. That's a great place. If you're wondering where to put your trail camera and it's not on a food source or a high transition area, man, put it on a scrape.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get deer activity and you're gonna get buck activity there.
Yeah, I tell you what though. I mean, how many hodag ropes do you guys run? Quite a few. Like every single deer, doesn't matter what time of the year it is touching that rope when they come by it. Those beacons when they're coming through. That is their communication tool when they're walking through the timber.
Yeah.
But those are very advantageous to a hunter as far as knowing it, especially with inventorying your animals.
Yeah, I think, as much as they communicate through scent, that gives them that visual cue too, especially if you have a clear wood line and that rope is hanging down, like giving them that visual cue, like, hey, I need to stop there.
Yep.
And then, with the other deer scent there, like they're going to use it. Even if you're not going to use a rope, I like to improve my scrapes. Like, you might walk past a tree and go, oh, the deer are going to scrape there. It looks like a good overhanging branch. If there's anything that you can do to even improve that, and it might be not even touching that tree, it might be, trimming some of the branches or trees around it just to make it stand out even more.
Yep.
I think as much as you can, one of the things that I just got done doing, a few weeks ago here, is if you're going in and you're mowing trails, or you're mowing food plots or whatever it is, you have a mower in there. Mm-hmm. Like I'll go in and known scrape areas, I'll go and mow under them, get rid of a lot of that debris. The deer will come in and they'll take care of that. Mm-hmm. But I think if you can clear out those areas and again, kind of make that visual awareness, and improve those scrapes at all, and then put a trail camera on them, man, that's a pretty recipe in my opinion.
Yeah, it's that visual beacon. They just get drawn to it. And I mean, there's so many different avenues on how you can do it. It could be a rope, it could be a licking branch, it could be one of the hodag sticks out in the middle of the field. Those things work extremely well as, the little rub poles.
Let's talk. Go ahead.
Yeah,
no, go ahead.
Go.
I'm going. Man, JJ's getting hostile on me today. Okay. Right. I was going to say, let's talk about batteries. So, there's a few different options when it comes to batteries for trail cameras or cell cameras. Obviously you can run your standard alkaline batteries. You can run lithium batteries. You can run solar panels. Reveal has a lithium ion pack that's rechargeable, pretty slick. But there's a lot of different options out there. They all work to some extent. What do you guys like when it comes to your cameras?
I love lithiums, but this guy's going to need to give me a raise the way the prices are. So I've been doing alkalines, and I got those rechargeables now on all my reveals. So the rechargeable packs are amazing.
I was going to say, I don't want to gloat, but last year I got a bunch of the packs and they paid for themselves last year. Now this year it's like free batteries. So
Yeah.
I know I hear a lot of people like, oh, battery prices are so high. So you got to bite the bullet once. You got to get the lithium pack. And then after it pays for itself with, 2 rounds of typical AA's, it's almost like no more battery fee.
Yeah.
So I did that last year, and I'm just kind of smiling at Brian, thinking.
I haven't had any negative feedback on those rechargeable packs, though, as far as them holding their charge. They've done really well and surprised me.
Yeah, they did good. I experimented with all different kinds of batteries, from the cheapest Amazon Basics batteries, which, we run a lot in our mics and stuff like that, because we just run through so many of them, all the way to, the better alkalines, to lithiums and the rechargeable packs. Lithiums are nice. The problem that I have with lithiums is like that power curve on a lithium battery is drastic. So like you might get a picture and, on your app and it says, okay, your camera has 40% battery life left. And then the next day it's dead.
Yep.
Because that curve drops off so far.
It does.
I've had good luck with all of them. I don't really have bad things to say about any of them. I will say the lithium packs are solid. I mean, they do pay for themselves. The ability to recharge them is great. You go in there, if it does die, swap out the pack, go and charge the other one. But like lithium pack, and especially if you put a solar panel on there, like I could put my camera out in the summer and pick it up when I'm turkey hunting in the spring, and it'll take a picture of me walking up to it. Like. Yep. That combination is pretty solid. There's a lot of great ways out there to keep the cameras powered. Now we're not running our cameras for the most part over feeders. We can't bait here. Nope. So there's not like, we're not taking thousands of pictures every day. But with any of those options, had pretty good luck. But if I had to pick one, it would be the rechargeables with the solar panel.
And the battery, I think we talked about it last year or 2 years ago, but I did a lot of testing where, I had massive boxes of AA's, lithium, non-lithium, bought the battery testers, set aside the A's, the B's, the C's, all different ratings. Yep. Took out the prime batteries, set them in some cameras, and they didn't last at all. So did not work as I was hoping.
Recycling batteries is tough.
I was like, I saved $300. Yeah. No, I just lost a lot of pictures of big bucks probably because the cameras died right away. But the lithium packs are awesome, and the solar panels are great. They don't work everywhere because you got to attach them to something. You need sunlight, obviously, to charge them. But you can even charge those lithium, the solar panels, and replace solar panels like you do a battery. So you could go out there and bring up a new battery and a new solar panel that's fully charged and get like a double bang for your buck there on a swap. Yeah. But that's all I'm gonna say about batteries. Lithium packs rock. Yeah, I'm glad I bit the bullet.
And if you don't have a reveal and you're running a standard non-cell cam, I mean, you're gonna get the best life out of the lithiums. However, get a max alkaline and you're good. Yeah. I still run some of those.
I will give one additional tip when it comes to cell cameras or just cameras in general, because we have a lot of them. We've dealt with a lot of them. It's easy to go out there and try to penny pinch. It's easy to say, okay, I'm going to buy cheaper batteries, or I'm going to buy a cheaper card than is recommended with your camera. And I don't care what kind of camera it is. One tip that I have is just invest a little bit more on the front end if you can, to put the right tools in your camera, because it's going to eliminate so many headaches in the future. Mm-hmm. Like there's simple ways to eliminate variables. We're big preachers of that. Is eliminate as many variables as you can when it comes to the hunt. When it comes to your cameras, do the same thing. Like, especially, like, don't skimp on your SD card when you're running cell cameras. Like, you buy a cheap SD card, that could be the sole reason why you're not getting any pictures, and transmitted. So just listen to the recommendations that are out there. Not saying that you have to buy the best of the best of the best of everything, but at least listen to those recommendations and go with them, because it'll save you time and money and potentially big buck pictures, during the season.
Yeah, we've had cheap cards that corrupt, and you have them in your best spot for, October, November, and then you pull the card and it's corrupt and you don't get any of that information or any of the high quality stuff you're waiting to see. There's one other point I wanted to make.
Unless you got Adam, he saves
Unless
them.
you got Adam, and
He can save
he
them.
does save them. I have had him save them.
So if you have a corrupt card, send it to Adam. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
What's that supposed to say?
Oh, learn your camera before you go out there, because you need, if you take your cards out and you reformat them and you go back to the camera, sometimes there's, depending on the model, like you could have a little red light and you don't know what's going on, and you turn it on, it's a red light, and your card's not formatted. Like, learn all of that before you get out there, so you can just make a quick swap. You're not adding scent. You're not out there longer than you need to be. Like, learn at home. Don't learn out in the field.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean,
Learn at home so you can learn in the field.
yeah,
I reformat the card every time, even when it says it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
In the camera, I just do it right in the camera because I know how it gives me peace of mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if it makes a difference, but knowing that, like the red dot on some of the models, like reformat it, learn how to reformat it, and know before you get there, so you're not out in the woods watching YouTube videos or something.
yeah, for sure. It's a good practice to just reformat your cards when you put them in your cameras. You know, we've all probably done it at one point or another. You know, maybe you have a couple different trail camera model or brands, and you pop a card out of one and you look at it on the computer and you delete those photos, but you pop it in another one. You know, that's kind of what the old SD card days. We don't run into this issue really anymore, but you know, that card's not formatted for that camera, so it doesn't take any pictures. You know, the good thing about having a cell camera is like you learn that pretty fast, you know, because you're getting the photos to your phone, so figure out if something's messed up or not. But yeah, lots of different things and different ways you can set up your cameras. But yeah, learn the ins and outs of them. It's lots of different ways to customize them to the way that you want to use them. Not that they're complicated, actually pretty simple. But just lots of different ways to use them that are most effective in the way you hunt.
I'm going to go back to some strategy stuff. You know, we were talking about scrapes. I think running cameras to be more successful is kind of the same way that you would hunt to be more successful. So setting up on a food plot or a food source, you know, if always talk about removing some of the scrapes and trying to get like the primary scrape in front of you, or putting your rope, you know, out in front where it's more visible. Like, you can do that same thing with your camera. You can eliminate competition with other scrapes. You know, take those branches down, cut them down. You know, just kind of learning where these primary scrapes are year after year, and like kind of being ahead of the curve on that too is a big thing. And then those hemp ropes have been huge. So putting them in a spot where maybe there are no other licking branches has been huge. And if you don't want to buy a rope, you could also go get, you know, a natural vine out in the field, or tie down a branch, you know, break a branch, make it hang down a little bit more. Anything you can do to kind of spice up that spot, eliminate competition, is good for cameras or just hunting setups in general.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt.
Fruit trees on the edge are also a good one, because they're eating the fruit.
Too.
Then you can see they're actually eating the leaves. They're starting to eat the tips of the branches, and then it kind of transitions into a scrape. Things like that.
Another spot, just kind of thought of it while you were talking there, that I like to put trail cameras like during this early time. You know, if you're going to put your camera, you have a lot of corn around you, and you're going to put your camera on the edge of a cornfield, analyze that corn. Like, you'll be able to see, there's a lot of edges where deer are feeding heavily, that, you know, you can see the corn's kind of eaten down and lower than the rest of it. Those are the areas that I'd target, you know, with my camera. Pay attention to the sign, let it tell you kind of where to put your camera, and then adjust from there.
Yeah, same thing with bean fields. You see the areas that get browsed, nipped off at the top. Perfect spots to put them, yeah.
Well, when it comes to trail cameras, cell cameras, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can use them. I think, you know, reveals have really changed the way that we hunt, or scout at least anyway. I do more scouting than hunting by far, and really rely on those to do some of that remote scouting for me. So if you're out there, you know, running cell cameras, not running cell cameras, you know, think about it. Just trail cameras in general, they're a great option and give you a lot of intel that you wouldn't have otherwise. So good luck out there this season. Hopefully you get some good pictures. If you get some cool stuff on there, feel free to send it to us over at the Deer Society or Illusion. Shoot us a message. We'd love to see it. Yep. And hopefully you enjoy the trail camera content that we do put in the like hunt breakdowns and just our different productions. You can find that on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. You can see all those videos, or download the Deer Society app. It's free. Tons of different content out there, hunts, as well as strategy and new tactics. So definitely check that out. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and good luck on the season if it hasn't kicked off for you already.
All our sponsors here at Deer Society are partners whose equipment we know we can trust are going to make you more successful and have a better experience in the field. Products like Illusion Systems, maker of the Black Rack, the Extinguisher, and the Phase Body Odor System. Tacticam, Reveal Cell Cameras, 10-Point Crossbows, Onyx Maps, Osseo Gear, Hooyman, and Big Frig.